All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Marika with HoneyBook. Thank you for joining our Creating Brochures webinar. So before we dive in, just want to go through our agenda for the day. So we're going to start with just a little bit of housekeeping. Make sure everyone can hear me. Let me know if you are seeing this and cannot. We will talk about brochures as a whole, so what they are, why you'd send them, and how to create them. We will go through actually creating a brochure template together, and then how to apply that template to either an automated workflow or within a project itself. Then we'll bop over to the client side to see what it looks like from their end, what it looks like when it comes in via an email, and then how they actually experience the brochure itself. And then what happens next? And then if there are any questions at the end, we will go through those too. So what is a brochure? So a brochure essentially is an interactive file that allows you to showcase your brand, your story, and your services. And depending on how you use it, it can get you booked really quickly as well. Now, it is an incredibly flexible file. There are a lot of things you can do with it, as we can see, but at its core, it is the best for this type of showcase. So again, why might you send it? Like I said, lots of different options. That might be an interactive service catalog and pricing guide for your client. As we'll be able to see in a little bit, you can actually add the packages or services that you offer to a brochure. And once it's sent to your client, they can select the things they're interested in. It is, again, interactive, very, very fun for everyone. It could be also more of a traditional portfolio. You don't need to make it super interactive if you don't want to. It can just be a beautiful array of images that showcase your brand, text talking about what services you offer, things like that. It could be more of a guide to working with you. Again, maybe that's a little less interactive, or a welcome kit, which details how the process of working with you will go. Maybe asks your client a couple questions that you need them to answer. It could be a proofing document or a mood board, which would include images or PDFs of documents with maybe questions attached so your client can say, yes, that looks good. No, I don't like that style. Making life easier for everyone, and really anything else you can dream up. As I said, is an incredibly flexible file. So in the course of sending a brochure, I just want to really quickly run over how that process works. So first up, you on your end will create a brochure template. Now, if you're unfamiliar with templates as a whole, again, they are just various elements of your process that you can create framework for. So in this case, we could create the framework for various brochures that we might send over and over so that we can really quickly just send those out in the future instead of needing to create one from scratch every time. Then you'll always need to send these through a project of some kind or in a workflow, which will only go out to existing projects. Now, again, if you're unfamiliar with projects, they're the foundation for pretty much all client communication. So let's say you want to send this brochure to a particular client, you will need to create or find that project in your HoneyBook account. Then you can simply select that template that you just created and customize it a little bit if you need. If this one's a little different for this particular client, you can still benefit from having that template in place because you don't need to, again, totally start from scratch. But I can customize that a little bit if I need or not, and then just send it off to my client. Now your client will receive this. If it's a brochure that you've included services in, they can select those services and submit them back to you. And a cool thing that happens is that when that submission is made, HoneyBook will automatically draft up a proposal for you. So that, again, is a combination of an invoice and a contract in one file based on the services that your client selected. Now, it won't send anything automatically. You can always come in and make changes, but it saves you that step of needing to create that proposal yourself. So then you can go in, make any changes that you need to that proposal. You obviously don't need to send it if you don't want, but it is very, very handy. So you can go in, customize it, and send that back out to your client. Okay, so that is the really quick overview of what a brochure is, why you might send it, and how that process works. So now I actually want to go through what it takes to create a brochure file in HoneyBook. We are going to begin the process in our templates section. Now, to get to my template section in HoneyBook, I'm going to click the Tools tab and Templates. And the very first thing you're going to want to have in place when you're creating brochures, assuming you're creating any that contain sort of pricing guides or service catalogs or anything like that, is you're going to want to make sure that you have some pricing packages set up for yourself. It just makes life easier. Now, these pricing packages can range from super complex and beautifully crafted to very, very basic. In this case, as we see, we've created like a basic package for our services that includes these 4 items at this price for $4,500. We have beautiful descriptions, we have images, all sorts of stuff in here. And once this package is saved, I can really quickly use this to build out other file types. In this case, we're going to use it to build out a brochure. Now again, best practice when you're beginning in HoneyBook is to start by creating these package templates. They are the building blocks. So whenever I'm in this template section, you'll see this create a new package, but I can just click that to start building stuff out. So now I actually want to look at our brochures. I'm going to head to our brochures section here. Once I'm in that section, I will see all of the existing brochures that I have. And I can pop into any that are in existence to make any changes that I need. So just as an example, I want to show you an existing brochure that we have here, our general pricing guide. What we see is I've actually built basically a PDF on this kind of wonderfully crafted image in another service, like in Photoshop or something, so that if I already have these assets in place for my business, I can quickly import them into HoneyBook Brochures. So as we see here, I kind of imported a full-size PDF, essentially, that I had already created, and I can now repurpose in HoneyBook. So this I did using an image block in HoneyBook. We also see lots of great text. This is another actually image that I created that I then uploaded, but in this case, I have actually created a text block that I can edit right through this brochure. We see some formatting options here of image and text combined. And then if I scroll down a little further, again, another great PDF that I had created in another service that I've imported. But we also see our offerings. So in this case, we've included a basic package with all that entails and a premium package as well. And then in this case, I think we've actually also included an add-ons section. So this is a great example of how you might use a brochure as kind of a pricing guide or that service catalog. It showcases all of the things you offer with some great imagery and text to go along with it. So again, this was just kind of an example. Now we'll look at actually creating a brochure together. So from my template section, I have clicked create new brochure and it takes me here. Now, the very first thing I always want to do in creating a template is title it. So I always know what I'm getting when I apply this in the future. So let's say this is our core services brochure. Now, brochures are made up of 2 kind of main elements. We have sections and we have blocks. The sections essentially create the outline or the skeleton of your brochure, and the blocks create the actual content. So in this case, you can kind of think of it like pages of an actual brochure, like each section might be a page or 2 pages that kind of go together. So let's say section 1 are our core packages. So now I can start building this out. And as we see, we have lots of different options for what we can add here. Maybe we want to begin by giving this guy a little bit of a header. So we can select an image or maybe text on image to build this out with our branding. We can upload any image we want. So if I click choose image, you'll see this upload function. So we just have a file size limit, but other than that, you can really upload any PDF, JPEG, anything you got, you can upload here. Or if I have images already uploaded to my library, I can very quickly draw from that as well. So I know someone was asking, can I create different brochures with different images and logos? Yep, that's the point. You can do whatever you want. You can upload anything you need. So let's say we want this guy here. You'll notice I can crop, I can make this huge. This is how, if I uploaded like a full page PDF, I can do that. I can just kind of extend it all the way through the PDF. And I can use this as my header image. Now, if I'd selected a text on image option, I could also customize some text on here and say like, maybe this is our, welcome to our brochure or something like that. This image isn't super conducive to that, so I left it as is. So now, since this is our core packages section, I want to add some services. So I'm going to click this plus button here to continue adding blocks. Now in this case, I don't need content, I don't need questions, I want my services in here. So clicking that services tab starts a services section for me. And if you've created any invoices or proposals before, it's going to look really familiar. All I do is click add new item, and I can start adding my packages or my services in here. So in this case, I want to find one of those packages that I just saw. So we saw our basic package here, and I want to add that as an option. So that just drops everything in for me. And then I want to add the alternative, maybe that premium package. So now essentially, I'm showcasing these two different packages that I offer to my client. Now I want to take this a step further and allow them to select which one they're interested in. So I could just kind of send this as is so they can see, but I want to actually let them say like, yep, I want this one. So if I hover over my services block, I'll see this little gear icon up here in the top. This is how I can toggle how my client can interact with this. So if I don't want them to interact with this at all, I can just toggle allow client to select items off entirely. I do want them to. Toggle that back on. Then, what level of selections do we want them to have? In this case, I don't really want them to be able to select more than one package, right? I don't want them to select both the basic and the premium. I want them to do one or the other. So I'm going to say I don't want to allow more than one selection, but I do want at least one. I want them to be required to select something before they can submit it back to me. And then if I want my client to be able to say like, yes, I would like 2 of these, I can always toggle on the quantity. Now in this case, again, with this particular package type, probably don't need quantity, so I can keep that toggled off for now. So my client will only be able to say, yep, I'm interested in this package. Now let's say though, we also want a section for like add-ons or maybe a build your own package instead. Let's add another section here. So again, we're kind of building out the outline or the skeleton of this brochure. And we'll say, build your own package. Now again, we can add images, we can add text on images. Let's add one more fun cover image here, just for funsies. And then we'd go through the same process of clicking the plus button, selecting services, but in this case, instead of selecting packages, I would just select kind of a la carte items that I have in my item bank or add new ones here. So maybe we want, a day of assistant as an option. We want a few other things in here too. Let's say a design and inspo board, which runs for $400. And sure, a phone consultation. We just want a couple things in here. Now in this case, we would once again head to our gear icon to make sure that our clients can select things, but we're going to set it up a little bit differently than we did that packages section. We do want client to be able to select items, but we actually want them to be able to select more than one in this case. We want them to kind of build their own. And it's not required. We'll keep this one not required, but we do want them to be able to select a quantity. We want them to say like, yes, if I want 2 days of on-site assistance, they can do that. Now the final thing that I can add here, so we've seen that we can add images, we can add services. The final element that we can add are questions. And the whole combination of all of these is what makes this file type so flexible. So I'm going to add one more section here, and we'll say like questions for you. Now we'll notice this third option here are questions blocks. So if I click on that, we'll see two different things. I can either add suggested questions. Any of these will pull into the project details fields of a project I've created, or I can add custom questions. So really anything I want within the formats provided here. So let's say that we want one suggested question. We want to know how they heard about us, so we can add this lead source question, and we can always edit this, anything to be anything we want. If I hover over this little linked icon, you'll see exactly where this answer will pull into. This will pull into the lead source field in your project details. And you'll notice this little gear icon once again. In the case of questions, this allows you to, I can edit the question itself if I'd like, and I can also toggle whether this question is required. So once my client receives this brochure from me, they won't be able to submit this back until they answer this question. Now, this set of stuff is really, really helpful. So if I wanted to add a question that's more geared towards, their style, maybe I can allow a creative drop-down. Are you more interested in the color of blue, pink, or red? Or if I wanted multiple choice, which things they're interested in including in their event or their project. Now, the final thing to note about the organization of this is you'll see our little 6-dot icon, which always means I can drag and drop to rearrange things. We'll see our trash can, which means I can delete. So you can always kind of click and edit and change things around. Now, what we created here was a very basic version of basically an interactive pricing guide or service catalog, right? But if you wanted to use this brochure file to create a more traditional portfolio or a welcome kit, maybe you'd leave the services out and really just build this out with images and text, right? I can really kind of craft this in a way that showcases my brand. And that is what I'd send to my client. If it was a welcome kit, maybe we'd include a couple questions as well, like we saw down here. Stuff that we need to get to know a little bit more about our client, we can add these question blocks. Or maybe this is like a proofing document or a mood board. So in that case, again, we might leave out the services and really rely on the images and the text. So if this was an element on our mood board, we could add a question down here with like, do you like this? So your client can say yes or no. Or if it's a proofing document, we can upload a PDF of whatever it is they're proofing and have them sign off using one of these questions. You could even really make this more question heavy and kind of make it more of a branded questionnaire. We obviously have a questionnaire file as well, but if I really wanted to deck it out with great images and text and things like that, I could use this as a questionnaire file as well. So it is a very, very handy, very flexible file type. So now I want to show you guys how to actually use these templates. So we've created our core services brochure, and there's two main things that I want to showcase here. So first of all, one of the very cool, very time-saving elements of HoneyBook are our workflows. So if I head to my tools section and workflows, we can see what's going on here. Now, a workflow allows you to automate steps in your process so that you don't have to worry about sending things out. So just going to click open one of these to show you what it is. So in this case, this automated workflow begins by sending a brochure. This sends our pricing guide. Then it creates a task for me to check in, and we can see that that happens 3 days after the brochure has been sent. And then it sends an email. Now, all of these steps, I'll see my little pencil icon here since this is an existing workflow, so I can edit it. Maybe in this case, I want to actually send that core services brochure that I just created instead. I can select the email that goes out with that. And if I'm sending just a standalone email, I can, of course, select an email template from here as well. So all of these steps I can set up to either send an email, create a task, send a questionnaire, or a brochure. I can select when I would like that step to happen, and then kind of what that trigger is. So is it, I wanted a week before the project something to send, Or maybe I want an email to go out a few days after a contract is signed or a questionnaire is submitted. So I can really set this up how I'd like. And the coolest thing I think about these workflows is that I can use them to automatically send stuff when someone submits an inquiry via my contact form, if I have my contact form set up. So maybe I want to make sure that anyone who submits a contact form to me automatically gets that core services brochure. Or again, if I've used that brochure to create a welcome kit, I can send that as a first step too. So if I head back to my workflows dashboard here, you'll notice this automate via contact form field. So if I want every single person who submits a contact form to me to get this workflow and get that brochure, I would just say, yep, default for contact form. And they would automatically be dropped into that workflow and get that brochure. But if I wanted to send this individually, I can do that too, just to showcase kind of why having brochure templates is handy. So let's say I want to send this off to a project that I have in my pipeline. So I'm ready to send our client Leslie a brochure. All I got to do, click that new file button. In this case, I'm selecting brochure, and there are all of our templates. I'll send that core services brochure. Oops. And it will just drop the whole thing on in for me. So again, I don't need to recreate this every single time. We see all of those options I created. Of course, I can come in and edit things if I need. I can add additional questions, and it will only affect this specific brochure. So let's say we also want her project type. So now I can just go ahead and send this off. Goes out with an email as always, but I can always edit that if I need and send that to my client. So now what I want to do is actually pop over to my client side of things here. I'm actually going to log out of my vendor account so that we can open this from the client side. Okay, so now I'm in my client's email. So I'm pretending to be the client right now. And there immediately is that brochure that I just sent along with the email. So there's that email and a big button that says view brochure. So I'm now opening this as my client. She can see all of those sections I created. So it kind of breaks down the brochure for her. She'll notice that she'll need to select one of these services in order to continue. So she can really review quickly what services I offer, that basic package or that premium package. So yep, I want the premium package. Then she'll see this build your own section as well. So maybe she does want this assistant, and in fact, she wants two. And she wants a design inspo board as well. Now she's got these couple questions to answer. So she heard about us through Yelp, and she's looking for a design project. So at the very bottom here, she'll see all of the selections that she made if you included services in your brochure. So she can see kind of what everything will tally out to. And then she goes ahead and clicks submit. So now I want to head back to my vendor side of things to see what happened once my client submitted that file. I'm going to open up that project one more time, and we'll see in my activity feed that a brochure was submitted, and we can see it here. So we can actually pop that open to see our brochure file, and I can go through and actually review the selections that she made down here at the bottom. But the other thing that happened, I obviously have the answers, I have the submissions, but I also created a proposal for me. This was automated. I did not need to create this. It drafted up this file for me. So this draft of a proposal is based on what she selected. So it includes her premium package, and it includes these two other items that she clicked. So it totals everything up for me. Then all I need to do is edit that payment schedule if I want, check my contract, make sure it's good, and send that off to my client. Now, of course, this did not automatically send to her, so I can make any changes that I do need. If she decides she doesn't actually want this design board, I can always remove that. So it just saves you time in the way of how this system and this process all works together. Okay, so that is kind of the gist of creating brochures and then applying them to your process and to your project. So I know a couple questions came in. So question number 1 is, any tips for creating 2 or 3 different brochures? I have coaching, consulting, and course clients. They're different enough that I'm assuming I need a few brochures. Yeah, no particular tips other than you can create as many as you want. Hopefully the walkthrough of creating a brochure showcased how flexible that was. And to your second question, is it possible to have different creative assets, logo, etc., for 2 to 3 different brochures? Yep, absolutely. That's the point. You can upload anything you want. Any assets that you have in the way of images, logos, get those on in there. You can create 1 brochure for coaching, 1 brochure for consulting, 1 brochure for course clients, and have those ready to go for whatever you need with all of those different assets. So yep, that's the point of that file type. Hopefully that helps. So to get in touch with our support team, we have this question mark icon at the bottom of every HoneyBook page, and click message us. Now I will also note that we have an HP 101 that goes over kind of the broad how HoneyBook works. And we also have some on-demand webinars that talk about, for example, contact forms and workflows. So that is a great quote unquote system to save time. So definitely check that pre-recorded webinar out. You can always come back and review this brochures. And then we have a couple other webinars in here as well. Again, these are on demand, so you can watch them at any point. So once again, I got there by clicking my question mark icon, product webinars. I can also use this question mark icon to find my help center, which has articles, step-by-steps, how-tos on building brochures to build different file types, on workflows, on creating projects, on everything you want. Go to that help center, search for what you're looking for, or again, you can always message our team. All right, guys, thank you for those who came and stayed all the way through. Hopefully this was helpful, and do reach out to us if anything else comes up. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye, guys.